That's right.
That means that if you've got rental income, you may have to make a gift of the rental property to the child in order to get it over there. If you go on to shift dividends income, that means you're going to need to make a gift of stock, and then you need to consider, again, what is the impact on your estate plan for making the gift? Is it going to be subject to a tax or not? Now, right now, we've got some huge exemptions for a very brief time. So for 2011 and 2012, we've got a $5 million lifetime exemption that's in place for gifts. So this is actually a huge opportunity period for making significant gifts for very wealthy families. And this is something that everybody should be talking to their attorneys and tax advisors, financial planners about. And it does relate to, in a sense, to this college planning. It's going to be an important consideration right now. And after 2012, again, poof, we don't know what's going to, we could be back down to $1 million exclusion, lifetime exclusion. It's going to be quite a different picture.
Even though I don't think the gift tax really comes into it, I think you can escape the gift tax just by careful planning and giving the exclusion amount. The exclusion amount is $13,000 per parent, $26,000 a year to a student.
Yeah, but that's going to be a pretty modest amount that you can do shifting. So it works for some families, but again,
for some families.
But again, we have, again, as I said, sort of an unusual situation for this year and for next year.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. So the two biggest items you can possibly give, I guess, would be appreciated stock, and then I would say also rental properties. You mentioned them earlier. Maybe some situation where you could loan the student some money to buy their own rental property that has a positive cash flow. The positive cash flow gets used by the student. Student pays virtually no taxes on that positive cash flow. At the end of the situation where the student leaves college, maybe sell the houses to pay back the parents, or deed them to the parents, whatever the situation is.
Okay. So we hinted a little bit at the kiddie tax. Why don't you talk about what the role of the kiddie tax is in all of this?
Yeah, the kiddie tax was originally designed to stop exactly what we've been talking about, the ease of income shifting to the child. And the kiddie tax basically says that over a certain level, about $1,900 of passive income, it will be taxed at the parent's tax rate. And that's true. So does that matter? Does that matter? It's increasing the taxes on the student, but you've still got those exemptions and the personal exemption, the standard deduction, and now perhaps the American Opportunity Tax Credit to take away that tax. So it's still possible, even with the kiddie tax, to avoid actually paying any tax.
But one of the things related to this is that the period that the kiddie tax applies has been greatly extended recently. So that's a real issue for many families. In some it seems kind of ridiculous, almost what they've done. But anyway.
Yeah, it extends all the way through to age 24 for a student. So it's going to capture all those years, whether the student goes to college or not, that they are living at home with or depending on the family.
Yeah. So at one time, I think it just went to age 13 or something, and now it's all the way out to 24. So it's been a big change. All right. Well, what kinds of savings vehicles are available to help families provide for children's college educations? That are, maybe we should say, that are tax favored.
Tax favored. The 529 plan is probably the biggest one, the qualified tuition plan. Everybody's heard of 529 plans.
Now in California, I think they were calling it the scholar share plan, the one that was offered by, they had the kids tap dancing on television.
Yeah, they go by different names. There's state registered plans. States have maybe a couple of them, so there's lots of names to go around. And as you say, in California, It's run by Fidelity and it's called a scholar share. The benefit is that you're putting money, making investments, putting money into the account, and it's growing tax-free, just like an IRA. And if the money is taken out and used for qualified educational expenses, then it remains tax-free. You do have to watch, those qualified educational expenses. They don't cover everything, and you may already be wanting to use some of those qualified educational expenses for other benefits, such as the American Opportunity Credit. So the way I advise my clients is to look at 529 plans as being a source of money for paying for room and board. Mm-hmm. And hopefully you can take care of tuition and fees in other ways and make sure you get all the best tax benefits.
Right.
In addition to 529 plans, there are Coverdell savings accounts, U.S. savings bonds, EE bonds, and then also life insurance. You can also count life insurance policies as tax deferred.
Okay, and then you're borrowing against the life insurance when you take
borrow against the life insurance.
Yeah. And the Coverdell, maybe we should just say for a moment then, that is like it's a type of an individual retirement account specifically for education, but it has a very low threshold as far as how much that you can contribute to the account.
Yes, yeah. So the disadvantage of the Coverdell compared with a 529 plan is that you can only put $2,000 into it per year, compared with $13,000, a gift of $13,000 or whatever from the parent. The advantage of the Coverdell is that it can actually be spent prior to college, so it can be used in a private education situation.
Right. Another thing on the 529 plans, well, there's two things I think that I want to bring up. So one is that when you put the money in and you say it's an intention for a certain child, then you get the $13,000 exclusion, as we said. You can also make an election really to say, okay, well, I'm going to make some contribution, I guess you could say, in advance. And so, was it up to 5 years?
5 years, $65,000.
Yeah, so you put $65,000. You must file a gift tax return when you do that in order to make the election and to use the $13,000 exclusion for each of the years. Another thing, though, is that parents get to keep a string on this. In other words, you don't totally give up control. Mm-hmm. And so if brother says, I've been thinking about it, I'm not going to college, and mom and dad says, oh, what a shame. Well, I guess sister's going to get the 529 money then. So
yes, it has the tax benefits of a complete gift, but actually it's, as you say, a gift with strings. You can pull it back.
Yeah. So it's a very special type of a thing. Unfortunately, though, some people have, especially with the stock market in the last few years, have seen their plans instead of grow, shrink, and that's no fun.
Yes, now that is a disadvantage of the 529 plan. You can only make a change in the investment once per year. Mm-hmm. If you're used to trading in your Schwab account or something like that, it can come as a shock when you open up a 529 plan and discover that if the market's heading south, you can't do anything about it because you've already used your one-time investment change.
Okay. What kinds of loans are available for financing college education, and again, how do those sort of fit in from a tax consideration?
From a tax consideration, if it's we talked about if it's a student loan, you may be able to get an interest deduction on it. Mm-hmm. The types of loan, federal loans, it's called the Stafford loan. There's another one called the Perkins loan. And then there are also private loans, regular bank type loans, which may come through the college, or the student may just go to a Wells Fargo branch or whatever and get such a loan.
Okay.
The difference there is that number one, it's going to be at a variable interest rate, which probably looks attractive right now, but who knows what it will be even 1 year from now, let alone 10.
Yeah.
And then also remember that student loans are very difficult to get rid of. You pay them off, you're going to pay them off one way or the other.
So you can't discharge them in bankruptcy, as I understand. At least not right now. But people are hoping and praying there'll be a change there. All right. getting down to the last few minutes here. Maybe why don't you pull out your crystal ball for a minute? What do you think is going to be coming in this education area?
Because of the rising expense of education and the affordability issue that we've spoken of earlier, they're trying to find different ways of delivering education. And probably the most obvious way to look at would be online education. And that is the way that for-profit colleges are going. So, they're leaving the not-for-profit, private and public institutions kind of behind in this aspect. Although some community colleges are now making more use of online education. And even UC California University is making use of that for some courses. Mm-hmm. So that's, the industry has got to work around, how it looks at online education. And that's what's also prompting some of the conflicts at the present with the for-profit colleges. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the issues for profit colleges.
Yeah. Any other changes that you see coming? Well, of course, for one, we just got a big question mark. What's going to happen with our tax system? My crystal ball is probably as broken as yours is there, especially when you look at what's going on in Congress. It's just...
it needs an election. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the for-profit side of things, that's been in the news recently. What was probably in the news that most people remember was the concept of for-profit colleges basically making too much profit and getting their hands slapped.
So are these like the trade school type things, or like the people who are advertising, for medical assistant training, dental assistant training, mm-hmm. All of these type of things?
Right. So if they're an accredited school, the benefit is they get the financial aid from the government financial aid, the Stafford loans and things like that.
Yeah.
And the concept there is that they've pushed these loans onto students who can't afford to pay them back, and thus the government has a high default rate on the loans. Okay. That's what got them into trouble.
Okay. David, thank you so much for being my guest. It's always a pleasure talking about this for you, and it's such an important area because families are struggling with this area mm-hmm. right now, especially with the economy as it is. So folks, we hope that you found this information to be valuable, and we hope you can join us next time on Financial Insider Weekly.